I've been having the same strange dream repeatedly. In the dream, I'm entangled with a man, indulging in endless nights of passion, but I don't know him. Later, I reported a female classmate for cheating on her final exams, nearly costing her her degree. Furious, she called in her powerful, influential uncle to back her up. Everyone thought I was finished. I looked up and saw the man. I thought, yeah, I'm definitely finished. Last night in my dream, I kissed him too hard and bit his lip. Wait, why does he actually have a cut on his lip? The moment Julian Sterling appeared, I thought I was dreaming again. I pinched my thigh hard to make sure I was awake. Chloe Sterling stood beside him, smug and triumphant. Willow, my uncle is here. It's not too late to apologize. I didn't hear a word she said. I was just staring at Julian's face. How could this be? He looked exactly like the man in my dreams. Striking features, an impeccable suit, and the most damning part, his mouth. There was a tiny red mark at the corner of his lips, exactly where I had bitten him in my dream last night. Is this a coincidence? Willow, are you listening to me? Chloe grew impatient, raising her voice. I said apologize, and you need to make a public statement that reporting me for hiring a test taker was slander, that you deliberately threw dirt on my name. I pulled my gaze away and looked at the claws out Chloe. I refuse. Are you crazy? Do you know who my uncle is? He's a shareholder at Apex Corp. With a snap of his fingers, your new offer from Apex is gone. You'll be blacklisted by every major company. You'll be finished. Then let me be finished. I looked up, locking eyes with Julian. Word by word, I said, either way, I will never back down. Walking out of the dean's office, my classmates guiltily avoided my gaze, because just now, they all gave false testimonies. Everyone knew Chloe hired someone to take her exams, including the counselor and some professors, but they chose to turn a blind eye. Even after I reported her, they actively lied for her. The reason was simple. Chloe was our school's famous Nepo baby. The Sterling family was already rich, but ever since her uncle Julian took over the family business, their wealth skyrocketed like a rocket. From malls to theme parks in this city, he built them. Julian also had stakes in many major corporations. Offending Chloe meant offending Julian. Even though this tycoon wasn't even 30 yet, he was already a powerful figure no one dared to cross. Except me, the thorn in everyone's side. If the report was substantiated, Chloe might not graduate. Panicked, she summoned her uncle, who was on a business trip abroad, to back her up. My roommate followed me, trying to persuade me earnestly. Why bother? We're about to graduate. Just endure it and it'll pass. You endure it if you want, I won't. Sigh, her uncle is powerful. There's nothing we can do. That's not what you said when she copied your thesis. My roommate choked, unable to refute. Chloe was in our dorm. She was arrogant and looked down on everyone, but she bullied me the hardest. At first, I didn't understand why. Later, I found out it was because of a senior. Chloe used to have a huge crush on him. One day, I accidentally wore the same jacket as him. People teased us, saying we were wearing couple outfits. The senior smiled and said just 2 words, my honor. Chloe held a grudge against me for that. Yes, for something that petty. In fact, I didn't even have that senior's number. Chloe liked many boys afterward, but her hatred for me never changed. I returned to the dorm and continued organizing evidence of Chloe's cheating. Around me, my roommates started gossiping. Did you guys see Julian Sterling today? I did. He's even younger than I thought. I heard he's only 7 years older than Chloe. So handsome, oh my god. Does anyone know if he's married? Does he have a girlfriend? Chloe says he does. But even if he were single, we wouldn't stand a chance. People like that are too far out of our league. True. Listening to their conversation, I zoned out slightly. I thought of the strange dreams I'd been having lately. In the dream, Julian shed his impeccable suit, and I let go of all my defenses. Sinking, venting. We couldn't speak in the dream, only possessing each other through action. But the strange thing was, before today, I didn't know Julian, so how could I dream of him? Thinking about it, there was only one possibility. Maybe I had glimpsed his photo inadvertently somewhere. I thought I forgot, but my subconscious remembered him firmly, and then projected him into my dreams. That's the only explanation. As for the wound on Julian's lip, it must just be a coincidence. Wet dreams are embarrassing to talk about, but as long as I don't say anything, no one will know. To avoid dreaming of him again, I didn't sleep until dawn. At noon, my roommate woke me up. Willow, wake up. Someone's looking for you. Who? Julian Sterling. I opened my eyes instantly, meeting my roommate's gossipy expression. He's downstairs. Hurry up. I washed up quickly and went downstairs. Julian was exceptionally tall, his back straight. Even standing in the corner, he attracted most people's attention. He looked me over and said, "Insomnia last night?" My eardrums felt like they vibrated. Because of those dreams, I had guessed countless times what his voice would sound like. Now I finally heard it. Deep, magnetic. How did you know? I asked. You have dark circles under your eyes. Oh, what do you want? I heard from Chloe that you want to post her story online. If the school continues to cover for her, I will. Julian pondered for a moment. The company is fighting a PR battle recently. Can you make an exception? Name your conditions. No, I refused flatly. Bowing to people like you once means never standing up again. People like us? Julian raised an eyebrow, confused. Yes, privileged people like you. You package yourselves as glamorous, but underneath, you're rotten flesh, living by sucking the blood of ordinary people. Julian didn't get angry, but after a moment of silence, he asked a baffling question. Is that how you see me? Duh. You and Chloe are a loving family. Given what your niece is like as her elder, could you be a good person? Leaving that sentence behind, I turned to go upstairs. Julian suddenly called me again. Willow, what else? He paused for a moment and said, go to bed early tonight. Get a good sleep. Sleeping early was impossible. I had a part-time shift tonight. Chloe wasn't exaggerating. I really could lose my offer and be unable to find a job for a while. Therefore, saving money to move to another city became very important. The convenience store was open 24 hours, and I had the night shift. Standing guard until 6 a.m., I finally got off work. But I was too sleepy. My eyelids were so heavy they felt glued together. No, maybe I really fell asleep because I saw Julian. A black Maybach was parked on the deserted roadside, and he was staring straight at me. It was a dream. It had to be a dream. I walked straight over and said, don't you only appear in dreams at night? It's 6 a.m. Why are you still here? Tested and verified, I only dream of him when I sleep at night, not during the day. Julian didn't speak. This was normal because, in the dream, no matter what we said, the other person couldn't hear. Seeing his abstinent look, I gritted my teeth in hatred. You look fine here. Why are you so detestable in reality? I reached out to rub his face. He didn't resist. He even patted the leather seat, signaling me to get in. I climbed into the car decisively and straddled him. A familiar position. We had tried this many times in dreams. Julian habitually adjusted his legs and angles to make me more comfortable. Your niece bullied me. The counselor covered for her, and you covered for her too. But you have no idea what she did to me. I just accidentally bought the same dress as her, and she cut mine into shreds. She said I was shameless for wearing a knockoff. But how would I know that brand? Even if it was a knockoff, I saved money to buy it. Julian's gaze trembled slightly. And now, I just revealed a fact, and you want those companies to blacklist me. Since Julian couldn't hear, I poured out all my grievances from reality. Finally, I bit his shoulder hard. I don't want to dream of you anymore. This is the last time. Julian suddenly grabbed me, his grip strong. No, I don't agree. I froze. How did he speak? Wait, how could I hear him speak? Hold on, my head is spinning. Just then, Julian spoke again. Willow, you're not asleep. This isn't a dream. This time, I heard it clearly. At the same time, there was a knock on the car window. Uncle, why did you call me out so early?
The world tilted on its axis as Chloe's shrill voice cut through the glass of the Maybach window. My heart slammed against my ribs like a trapped bird. Not a dream. My hands were literally clutching Julian Sterling's tailored lapels, my body straddling his lap, and his warm breath was brushing against my flushed cheeks. I looked down at his mouth. The tiny nick on his lower lip was real, bleeding slightly again from my bite. Uncle, Chloe knocked on the tinted window again. Are you inside? Panic surged through me. I scrambled to pull back, but Julian's large, calloused hand clamped around my waist, keeping me firmly pinned against him. His deep voice resonated through his chest, vibrating right into mine. Stay still, he murmured, his thumb brushing a stray tear from my cheek, a real tear from my genuine breakdown. Julian, let me go, she's right outside. I hissed, my face burning with a dangerous mix of humiliation and shock. Let her wait, Julian said softly. He reached over, grabbed a subtle lever and electronically raised the privacy partition, blinding the rear cabin from the front and darkening the side windows completely. Then he pressed a button on the steering console. The window rolled down a tiny 2-inch crack. Uncle, what took you so long? Chloe's whining tone filtered in. Why is the car so dark? And why did you call me to the convenience store at 6 am? Chloe, Julian's voice transformed instantly. The gentle, contemplative tone he had used with me turned into an icy, commanding baritone that could freeze boiling water. Where is the thesis you submitted last term? Chloe paused, caught off guard. What? My thesis? It's on my laptop. Why? And the exam you took last month for advanced financial accounting? Julian continued, his hand resting possessively on my lower back, his eyes fixed on mine. Did you take it yourself, or did you pay $30,000 to a proxy named Sarah Lynn? On the other side of the door, a heavy, suffocating silence fell. Chloe's voice squeaked, all her previous arrogance vanishing. Uncle, who told you that? Is it that bitch Willow? She's lying. She's trying to drag my name through the mud because I had my corporate legal team run a forensic audit on your personal accounts 2 hours ago. Julian cut her off mercilessly. The bank transfers, the IP addresses, and the encrypted chat logs with the proxy service are all sitting on my desk. My jaw dropped. I stared at Julian in absolute shock. Uncle, please. Chloe began to panic, banging weakly on the door. I'm your niece, you can't do this to me. Apex Corp is sponsoring the university's new library. The dean promised. The dean is being relieved of his post by the board of trustees at 9 am today, Julian declared coldly. And as for you, Chloe, your academic standing is revoked. You are suspended pending expulsion. No, Uncle, you can't, Chloe squealed in horror. Go back to the dorm and pack your things, Julian commanded, his tone final. And if you step within 10 feet of Willow again, I will cut off your trust fund permanently. He rolled the window up, sealing out her hysterical wails. Silence descended upon the luxury cabin. I was still sitting on his lap, completely motionless, staring at the most powerful man in the city. You audited her, I whispered. Julian's dark eyes softened as he looked up at me. He raised his hand, his long fingers gently tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. You asked me yesterday if I was a good person, he said softly, his deep voice wrapping around me like silk. I told you to go to bed early tonight, but you didn't listen. You came out to work a night shift. Julian, I swallowed hard, my mind reeling. The dreams, how is this possible? Why did I? A subtle, enigmatic smile touched the corner of his lips, the exact smile he had given me 1,000 times in my sleep. Did you really think, Julian whispered, leaning in until his breath warmed my ear, that you were the only one having those dreams, Willow? My brain completely short-circuited. What? Julian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a delicate, worn silver fountain pen. He held it out to me. I gasped. My pen. I lost this in the library freshman year. I picked it up 3 years ago, Julian said softly. You were asleep at a corner desk, surrounded by economics textbooks. I placed it on your notebook, but you stirred and I walked away. That night was the first time I dreamed of you. I stared at him, horrified and fascinated all at once. For 3 years, Julian continued, his gaze intense, searching my eyes. Every few months I would enter a world where I could hold you, touch you and feel you. But in the dream there was a rule: we couldn't speak. Every time I tried to tell you my name, no sound would come out. I thought I was going insane. I hired doctors, sleep specialists, psychologists. None of them could explain why a man who had never spoken to a woman could be tormented by her image every night. So when you walked into the dean's office yesterday, I breathed, the pieces finally falling into place. When I saw you standing there, defiance in your eyes, looking at the mark on my lip. Julian's thumb traced my lower lip gently. I knew the woman who had been tearing down my defenses in my sleep was standing right in front of me, accusing me of being a monster. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst through my ribs. The embarrassment of everything I had done in those dreams, every touch, every kiss, every shameless position flooded my mind. I need to get out, I stammered, scrambling toward the door handle. This is too weird. You're my bully's uncle, you're a billionaire. This is insane. Julian didn't stop me. He unlocked the door, but as I pulled it open, he caught my wrist gently. Willow, he said, his voice dropping an octave. Chloe bullied you because she thought she owned the Sterling name. I'm going to teach her, and everyone else who helped her, that the only person in this city with true power is the one standing by my side. I don't need your charity, I said, trying to sound tough despite my flaming red cheeks. It's not charity, Julian murmured, his dark eyes locking onto mine with hypnotic intensity. It's compensation for all the sleepless nights. I ripped my hand away, scrambled out of the car, and practically sprinted all the way back to my dorm, leaving the powerful Julian Sterling sitting alone in his Maybach. When I reached the dormitory floor, the atmosphere was completely chaotic. Students were standing in the hallways, whispering frantically. As soon as I walked in, heads turned, but this time the glances weren't filled with gloating or guilt. They were filled with absolute shock and terror. Chloe was inside our dorm room, furiously shoving her designer clothes into suitcases while sobbing loudly. My roommate, who had previously advised me to just endure it, was standing in the corner, pale and trembling. When Chloe saw me walk in, her face twisted with pure rage, but before she could open her mouth, her phone rang. She answered it on speaker, her hands shaking. Dad, Uncle Julian is crazy. He revoked my graduation. He's kicking me out, Chloe shrieked. Her father's furious voice blasted through the speaker so loudly the entire hallway heard it. Shut your mouth, Chloe. What the hell did you do to anger Julian? He just froze our branch's corporate dividends. He told the entire board that if I try to intercede for you, he will strip me of my directorship. What? Chloe gasped, dropping her phone onto the bed. But I'm his niece. He doesn't care. He said you disgraced the family name by engaging in academic fraud and harassing a student. Who is this Willow girl? Why did Julian's personal secretary just file a formal lawsuit against you for slander and harassment on her behalf? The room went dead silent. Everyone looked at me. Chloe turned to me, her eyes wide with sheer disbelief and horror. What did you do to my uncle? What did you say to him in that car? I stood straight, crossing my arms, feeling an overwhelming wave of satisfaction washing over the years of quiet endurance I had suffered. I didn't say anything, Chloe, I said calmly, stepping past her to my desk. I just told the truth, something you've never done in your entire life. You ruined me, Chloe screamed, lunging toward me with her manicured nails outstretched. Before she could even get close, 2 tall men in dark suits stepped through the open dorm door. It was Julian's personal security detail. Miss Sterling, the lead guard said coldly, stepping between us and grabbing Chloe's wrist firmly. Mr. Sterling has ordered us to escort you off campus immediately. You have 5 minutes to surrender your university keycard. Hallway erupted into hushed chatter. My roommate looked at me as if I had suddenly transformed into a high priestess of doom. Willow, my roommate stammered, her voice shaking. Are you really getting Julian Sterling to back you up? I didn't answer her. I just picked up my books and walked out, leaving the fallen princess of the campus drowning in her own consequences. By noon, the university was in absolute turmoil. The dean who had threatened me yesterday was officially placed under investigation by the Board of Regents for corruption and accepting bribes from wealthy donors. The counsellor who had lied for Chloe was suspended immediately, and the students who had given false testimonies were summoned one by one to face academic disciplinary hearings. The offer from Apex Corp that Chloe had threatened to strip away from me. I received an email directly from the HR director at 1 p.m, confirming my position, not as an entry-level intern, but as an associate project manager, with a salary 3 times higher than the initial offer. I sat on a bench near the campus lake watching the chaos unfold from a distance. Justice was swift, ruthless, and terrifyingly precise. A shadow fell over me. I looked up expecting Julian, but instead it was the senior Chloe had obsessed over years ago, the one whose jacket I had accidentally matched. He looked flustered, holding a cup of coffee. Willow, I heard what happened with Chloe. That's insane. I always knew she was crazy. Listen, I was wondering. Since you're free now, do you want to grab dinner tonight, to celebrate your victory? I looked at him, remembering how he had casually flirted with me back then, only to completely ignore me when Chloe started targeting me. No thanks, I said coldly, standing up. I'm busy. Oh, come on, Willow, he smiled charm-offensively, reaching out to grab my elbow. Don't be like that, we used to be close, right? Before his hand could touch my skin, a cold, smooth voice interrupted us. Take your hand off her. Senior froze. We both turned to see Julian walking down the stone path. He wasn't wearing his formal suit jacket now. His crisp white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to his forearms, looking effortlessly powerful and ridiculously handsome. 2 bodyguards trailed a respectful 10 paces behind him, the senior pale instantly upon recognizing the tycoon who had just restructured the entire university administration in 6 hours. Mr. Sterling, the senior stammered, backing away. I was just offering Willow a ride. She doesn't need a ride from you, Julian said flatly, stepping directly into the senior's space. Julian towered over him, his physical presence suffocating. And if I see you hovering around her again, your father's subcontract with Apex Logistics will be reviewed. Senior's eyes went wide. He babbled an apology, turned on his heel and literally ran away. I rolled my eyes, though my heart was doing that familiar, erratic flutter. Was that necessary? You're scaring everyone. Julian turned his gaze to me, his dark eyes instantly softening. I don't like other men touching what belongs to my dreams. I don't belong to your dreams, I retorted, though my face was burning. And stop saying things like that in public. Julian chuckled softly, a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. Come with me, there's someone you need to see. He led me to a black sedan parked near the administrative building. Inside the private conference room of the faculty building, 2 people were sitting nervously, the head counselor who had covered up Chloe's cheating and Chloe's mother, Julian's sister-in-law Victoria. When we entered, Victoria immediately stood up, her face red with anger. Julian, what is the meaning of this? Victoria snapped, pointing a shaking finger at me. You ruined Chloe's future for this nobody. She's your family. How could you side with an outsider? Julian didn't even glance at her. He pulled out a leather armchair for me, gesturing for me to sit. Only after I was comfortably seated did he turn his razor-sharp gaze to his sister-in-law. Victoria, Julian said smoothly, leaning against the edge of the mahogany table. 3 years ago, when your husband died, who paid off his $20 million gambling debts to keep the family out of bankruptcy? Victoria bit her lip, turning pale. You did. But who funded Chloe's tuition, her luxury cars, her penthouse apartment, and her allowance? Julian continued, his voice dripping with icy calm. I did. Not because she earned it, but because I respected my late brother. But it seems my generosity created a spoiled monster who thinks she can destroy innocent people's lives using my name. She's just a child, Victoria argued desperately. She made a mistake. She's 22, I spoke up, my voice steady as I looked Victoria dead in the eye. She hired a proxy, ruined my clothes, threatened my career, and forced an entire department to lie for her. That's not a mistake, that's malice. Victoria glared at me with pure hatred. Shut up, you little opportunistic brat. You think just because you seduced my brother-in-law. Bang, Julian slammed his palm onto the table. The sudden noise made both Victoria and the counselor jump out of their skin. Watch your tongue, Victoria, Julian said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. One more insult directed at Willow, and I will cut off your monthly stipend immediately. You will be evicted from the Sterling estate by tonight. Victoria gasped, clutching her chest. She realized with absolute terror that Julian wasn't bluffing. He was dead serious. Here are my terms, Julian said, throwing a set of legal documents onto the table. Chloe will sign a full public confession admitting to her academic fraud and her harassment of Willow. The confession will be published on the university portal and major news outlets. She will undergo 2 years of community service, or I will personally hand the evidence of her bribery over to the district attorney. A public confession, Victoria cried. Her reputation will be destroyed. Her reputation was destroyed the moment she chose to be a cheat, Julian replied coldly. Sign it or face criminal charges. You have 10 seconds. By 5 p.m. the university portal crashed. A detailed, notarized public confession signed by Chloe Sterling was posted on the front page of the university's official site, complete with bank transfer receipts proving she had hired a proxy for her exams. Simultaneously, the university released an official statement apologizing to me, restoring my flawless academic record, and announcing the termination of 3 corrupt faculty members. The entire student body was in shock. The online forums were exploding. Holy crap, Chloe Sterling actually got brought down. Willow is a hero. I heard Julian Sterling himself came to campus to purge the corruption. He didn't even cover for his own niece. Willow is so badass. She stood up to the Sterling family and won. When I walked back to the dorms to pack my things, since Julian's team had arranged a private luxury apartment for me near my new workplace at Apex Corp, my classmates lined the hallways. Same classmates who had avoided my gaze yesterday were now looking at me with awe, respect, and deep embarrassment. My former roommate stood near the door looking at me with tearful eyes. Willow, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I was a coward. I should have stood up for you when Chloe cut your dress. I stopped and looked at her. You don't need to apologize to me. Just remember for the rest of your life that staying silent when someone is being wronged doesn't make you safe. It just makes you next. I picked up my suitcase and walked out of the dormitory building for the last time. Waiting at the bottom of the steps was the sleek black Maybach. The door was opened by a driver in white gloves, but inside sat Julian, holding a glass of sparkling water, watching me with a look of quiet pride. Satisfied with the revenge? He asked as I climbed into the back seat beside him. It was fair, I said, leaning back against the soft leather seats, feeling an immense weight lifted off my shoulders. She got what she deserved. Julian leaned closer, his dark eyes locking onto mine, his intoxicating scent of cedarwood and amber enveloping me. Now that your reality is settled, he murmured, his fingers gently tracing the line of my jaw, we need to talk about our night shifts. My face instantly flushed crimson. What night shifts? The ones in our sleep, Julian whispered, leaning in so close his lips almost touched mine. For 3 years I've had to endure you biting me, running away from me, and throwing fits in my dreams without being able to say a word. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? I didn't do it on purpose, I protested, squeezing my eyes shut. I didn't even know who you were. I must have seen your picture in a business magazine or on a billboard, and my brain just constructed me. Julian chuckled, a low, sinful sound. He reached down and caught my hands, pulling them gently away from my face. Was my construction satisfactory? Julian, I squeaked, trying to pull my hands back, but his grip was firm yet gentle. In the dream last night, Julian murmured, his gaze dropping to my lips, you bit me because you said you were mad at reality. You said I was arrogant and privileged. You were arrogant, I mumbled. And now? He asked, his dark eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my breath hitch. What do you think of me now, Willow? I looked at him, really looked at him. Behind the terrifying corporate tycoon and the formidable billionaire was a man who had spent 3 years silently carrying the same bizarre supernatural connection as me. A man who, the moment he realized I was in trouble, destroyed his own family's reputation to protect mine. Not as bad as I thought, I admitted softly. Julian smiled. It wasn't his usual cold, corporate smirk. It was a genuine, breathtakingly handsome smile that made my heart do flips. High praise, he murmured. Suddenly the car stopped. The driver discreetly lowered the front shade and stepped out, leaving us in complete privacy in the underground garage of an elite high-rise apartment complex. Julian looked at me, his eyes darkening with a familiar, dangerous passion, the exact look he always had in the dreams right before. Julian, I whispered, my heart hammering against my chest. We're awake right now. I know, Julian replied, his voice husky and rough. He reached out, his long fingers cupping the back of my neck, pulling me slowly toward him. And this time, I can actually hear you say my name. His lips met mine in a kiss that was nothing like the chaotic, venting kisses of our dreams. This was deliberate, slow, and devastatingly deep. A gasp escaped my throat, and Julian took full advantage, deepening the kiss, his tongue tangling with mine, possessing me with a fierce, restrained hunger that had been building for 3 long years. My arms instinctively found their way around his neck, my fingers burying into his thick, soft hair. The boundary between dream and reality completely dissolved. Everything felt 10 times more intense, the heat of his skin, the firm muscle of his shoulders beneath his shirt, the masculine scent wrapping around my senses. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathless, resting our foreheads together in the quiet dark of the car. Julian, I breathed, my lips swollen and tingling. Say it again, he whispered, his eyes gleaming with dark satisfaction. Julian, I said, a small, breathless smile breaking on my face. You're real. Real, he murmured, kissing the corner of my mouth gently. And you're never getting rid of me. Over the next few months, my life transformed completely. Chloe Sterling vanished from the city's social scene. Forced to complete her community service in a remote town under the strict supervision of Julian's legal team, her family's influence was completely neutralized, and the university returned to a place of actual academic integrity. I excelled at Apex Corp, quickly proving that my success had nothing to do with nepotism and everything to do with my own sharp mind and relentless work ethic. And as for the dreams, they didn't stop. But they changed. No longer were they silent, chaotic nights of vented frustration. Now, when I closed my eyes, Julian was there, holding my hand, laughing with me under starry skies, and loving me with a tenderness that bled seamlessly into our waking life. One evening, a year later, I stood on the balcony of Julian's penthouse, looking out over the glittering city skyline. The city that he built, the city that once terrified me. Julian wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder, placing a soft kiss on my neck. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. I leaned back against his chest, placing my hands over his. I was thinking, I smiled, turning my head to look at the tiny, faded scar on his lip, about how lucky I was that I bit you that night. Julian laughed softly, pulling me closer against his heartbeat. And I was thinking about how glad I am that you refused to back down. He turned me in his arms, lifting my chin, and pulled me into a kiss under the midnight sky, a reality far sweeter than any dream could ever be.